The training arena of the Galactic Combat Academy was built to make everyone feel small. It was a massive dome made of black alloy that shimmered like liquid glass. Every wall was covered in holographic panels showing the flags of hundreds of alien worlds. The sound of machinery, voices, and shifting armor filled the air like a storm. This place was where the galaxy trained its best warriors, soldiers who fought for empires, councils, and entire species. And now, for the first time, a human stood among them. Her name was Lieutenant Mira Hale. She was 27 years old, tall for a human, with sharp gray eyes that seemed to see more than she said. Her body was lean, shaped by gravity drills and months of combat training back on Earth. But compared to the massive reptilian soldiers, the glowing crystal beings, and the armored insectoids around her, she looked fragile, breakable. Many of them thought she didn't belong there. As she walked to the center of the arena, whispers followed her like wind. "Fragile species. Soft-skinned primitive. She won't last a minute." Mira ignored them. She had already heard worse when she was selected to represent Earth. Humanity's entry into the academy had not been welcomed. Most alien species saw humans as impulsive, emotional, and dangerously unpredictable. She reached the middle of the circular arena, where the combat instructor was waiting. He was called Vrator of the Shar Dominion, a towering alien with 6 limbs, a carapace of metallic blue armor, and eyes like molten gold. Each movement of his body carried the weight of battle scars. Vrator had fought in more wars than most civilizations had existed. His voice, when he spoke, was like thunder rolling through a storm. "Human," he said, looking down at her. "Your kind is weak but brave. You requested to prove your worth in combat. Very well. You have 3 seconds to kill me." The crowd of alien cadets burst into laughter. It wasn't a polite laugh. It was mocking, sharp, cruel. One of the insectoid cadets whispered to another, "She won't even survive the first second." Vrator's golden eyes glowed. His 4 upper arms reached to his waist, activating his neural armor, a shimmering field that wrapped around him like liquid energy. His exosuit hissed, powered by internal servos. 3 seconds, he repeated. "Begin when ready." Mira didn't move. Her heart was calm, steady. She looked up at the instructor and said softly, 3 seconds. I only need 1. The laughter stopped. Vrator tilted his head. Arrogant words for such a small creature. "Proceed." Mira exhaled slowly and placed her hand on the small wrist device that looked like a training gauntlet. Nothing special, at least not to alien eyes. Inside that gauntlet was an experimental piece of Earth technology, a neural feedback disruptor. It wasn't designed to kill. It was designed to confuse and reset neural armor systems by reflecting their own power back into themselves. It was risky. It only worked if she timed it perfectly. The moment Vrator stepped forward, Mira took a single step to the side, almost too quick to notice. Her thumb tapped a hidden switch. A pulse of blue light flashed from her gauntlet, silent but sharp like lightning in water. Vrator froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. His armor stiffened, every joint, every servo, every neural link. The great warrior couldn't move. His 6 limbs were locked in place, his breathing quick and shallow. The crowd gasped. Mira didn't draw a weapon. She simply walked around him and said quietly, 1 second. Vrator's armor flickered. He could feel the power feedback crawling through his nerves. "What? What did you do?" he growled. Mira looked up at him calmly. "Your armor amplifies movement through a neural current. I reverse that current. You're amplifying your own paralysis." Silence filled the arena. The laughter was gone. The other cadets watched as their unstoppable instructor stood frozen by a human who hadn't even raised her voice. Vrator's golden eyes dimmed for a moment. Then the armor released with a hiss. He stumbled back, catching himself with 2 of his lower arms. He looked at her, not with anger, but with confusion. "Impressive," he muttered. "You didn't attack. You exploited knowledge." Mira nodded. "Knowledge is a weapon, too." He stared at her for a long time, then turned to the audience of alien cadets. "Class dismissed," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "Except you, human." The others left, whispering among themselves. The room felt suddenly colder. When they were alone, Vrator walked closer, his huge shadow covering her completely. "That technique," he said slowly. "It was not in your academy data file. Where did you learn it?" Mira met his gaze. "Earth doesn't share all its secrets. The alien's mandibles twitched, the Shar version of a smile. I see. So your kind hides blades behind politeness. Only when we need to, Mira replied. Vrator's gaze drifted to the side of the arena, where the holographic screen displayed their fight. The system recorded everything: timestamps, energy readings, heart rate. It showed one undeniable fact: 1.03 seconds, that was all she needed. He looked back at her. You know what this means, don't you? The other species will demand answers. They will want to know how you defeated a Shar instructor in less time than it takes to breathe. Mira shrugged. Maybe they'll learn something from it. He let out a low growl. Or they will fear it. There was silence for a long moment. The only sound was the faint hum of the arena's energy shields powering down. Vrator turned away, walking toward the exit. Report to my office tomorrow, Lieutenant. We are not finished. As he left, Mira exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear but from the rush of adrenaline. She had done it. For a single moment, humanity had stood toe-to-toe with the galaxy's best, and won. Later that night, Mira sat alone in her quarters. The room was small, metallic, with a single window showing the twin suns of Vega 4 burning across the void. She replayed the footage on her wrist device. 1 second. That's all it had taken. But she knew it wasn't just luck or reflexes. She had studied the Shar armor for months before the test. She'd read every bit of data Earth could gather, looking for a weakness. No alien expected a human to rely on analysis instead of strength. That was the key. Still, something about the way Vrator reacted bothered her. He didn't seem angry, he seemed worried. Why? Her door console beeped. A message. Report to Simulation Chamber Delta 0600 hours. Instructor Vrator, she frowned. Usually combat tests were spaced days apart. This was immediate. Mira leaned back in her chair and smiled slightly. So it's not over yet. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, Vrator stood before a holographic council of alien instructors. A tall, crystalline being spoke first. You humiliated yourself before the cadets. Another, with eyes like burning coals, added, The human exploited our systems. She should be removed. They are too dangerous to train. Vrator's mandibles twitched again. She didn't humiliate me. She showed me something our empires have forgotten. How to think in combat. Think? One alien sneered. She used a trick. Vrator's golden eyes glowed faintly. Sometimes a trick is what wins wars. He ended the meeting and looked down at the data logs once more. The human's pulse rate had never gone above 82. Her focus was constant. No panic, no hesitation. He whispered quietly to himself. 1 second. And she changed everything. Back in her room, Mira prepared for the next day. She tightened the straps on her gauntlet, checked the calibrations, and ran her neural diagnostics. Tomorrow's test could be anything. A duel, a simulation, maybe something worse. But she wasn't afraid. She thought about her home planet, the blue oceans, the cities, the people who still thought Earth was alone in the universe. They didn't know how far behind they were, or how far ahead they could go. She whispered to herself, Let them laugh. I'll make them remember. As the twin suns of Vega 4 dipped below the horizon, the Galactic Combat Academy went silent. But in the data archives, the footage of Mira's test had already spread. Across hundreds of communication channels, cadets replayed the moment the human said, I only need 1 second. The next morning, the Galactic Combat Academy looked different to Lieutenant Mira Hale. The corridors were quieter. The eyes that followed her weren't filled with laughter anymore. They were filled with curiosity and fear. Whispers followed her everywhere. That's the human who froze Vrator. 1 second. She did it in 1 second. The story had spread faster than light. Every species, from the Shar Dominion to the crystalline, Vuln, was talking about the human who broke the unbreakable rule, that no one could defeat a Shar warrior in combat. Mira didn't care about the attention. She only cared about why Instructor Vrator had called her to the Simulation Chamber Delta so soon. Something about his tone last night told her this wasn't a simple rematch. The door to the chamber opened with a hiss. Inside was darkness, broken only by the faint blue glow of energy lines that formed a circle around the floor. Vrator stood there, his armor repaired, his expression unreadable. You came, he said, his deep voice echoing in the empty hall. Mira nodded. You told me to? He tilted his head slightly. Most humans would have asked why first. She crossed her arms. You would have said I'd find out soon enough. For a moment, the corner of his mouth curled, a sharp smile. Then his tone hardened. You embarrassed the Dominion yesterday. That is not a small thing. The council already sent a message. They want you expelled, Mira frowned. Expelled? For passing your test? Rator's golden eyes glowed faintly. For proving something they didn't want proven. He walked closer and handed her a small data crystal. Smooth, black, and glowing faintly red. This is real footage. Watch it. Mira inserted it into the holographic console beside her. Instantly, the room filled with projected images. Scenes of battle. Massive fleets tearing each other apart. Planets burning. Armies of alien soldiers marching across alien worlds. Then she saw humans, or what looked like humans, fighting beside strange allies. The footage wasn't recent. It was from decades ago. These are old wars, she said. Pre-contact era. Brator shook his head. Older, from before your kind was even aware of us. Mira turned to him, confused. That's impossible. He pointed to the projection of a human soldier leading an alien squad through fire. That is not impossible. Your kind was here once, long ago. You came, you fought, and then you disappeared. We thought you were extinct. She stared at him, shocked. You're saying, humanity has been here before? Not your generation. Another one. We call them the first ones of Terra. They were fearless, unpredictable, and brilliant in ways that frightened even the ancient empires. When they vanished, we were relieved. Mira's chest tightened. And now that we're back? Frator nodded slowly. The council fears history will repeat itself. He turned away and pressed a control on his arm. The hologram changed again. This time, Mira saw her own face, captured during yesterday's test, freezing him in 1 second. The image zoomed out, showing her pulse rate, neural pattern, and the gauntlet's readings. You proved what the old record said, he continued. Humans don't fight like other species. You don't follow logic. You adapt. You make the impossible possible. And that makes you dangerous. Mira looked down at her hands. They were trembling slightly. So that's why they invited us here and to study us. Exactly, Vrator said. To measure you. To see if you are a threat. Mira took a deep breath. And what happens when they decide we are? His silence was answer enough. After a moment, the simulation room lights shifted to red. New test, said Vrator. This one isn't mine. The council ordered it. You will enter the survival chamber. You will face 6 alien cadets, each from a different species. Rules: no weapons, no armor, no assistance. Mira blinked. 6 against 1? That's not a test. That's an execution. Frator's gaze softened just a little. I tried to refuse. They overruled me. If you survive, you'll earn something no human has ever achieved. Official combat recognition. Mira tightened her gloves. And if I don't? Then the council will say their fears were justified. She gave a small smile. Then I guess I'll just have to ruin their theory. The survival test the next hour was a blur of preparation. Mira stood in a changing chamber, while drones scanned her for weapons. The walls closed around her, and suddenly she was in the simulation dome, a giant virtual battlefield that could mimic any terrain in the galaxy. Today, it looked like a cold, metallic wasteland, dark sky, shifting gravity, and sharp rocks floating mid-air. Her opponents appeared one by one, surrounding her. A reptilian soldier from the Dract, twice her size, a glowing Voln crystal warrior, a swift insectoid from the Chitaur, a pair of twin telepaths from the Mindari, and finally, a heavy armored brute from the Grun Empire. 6 pairs of eyes locked on her. A voice echoed through the dome, the council's representative. Begin. Mira didn't wait for them to move. She dropped low, scanning the ground. The gravity was unstable, perfect for traps. The first attack came from the Dract warrior. He leapt forward, claws extended. Mira dodged sideways, letting his own momentum carry him into a floating shard of metal. It exploded, sending him spinning into the void. 1 down. Before she could breathe, the Voln fired a pulse of light. Mira raised her arm to shield her eyes, letting the beam hit a nearby rock. The reflection blinded the insectoid behind her, who screamed and stumbled. Mira used that moment to grab a fragment of debris and smash the control node on its back. It collapsed. 2 down. The telepath twins attacked next, sending waves of mental static into her mind. Mira gritted her teeth, focusing her thoughts. She couldn't block them completely, but she could redirect them. She remembered Earth's neural resistance training, channeling pain into clarity. She picked up a handful of metallic dust, threw it into the air, and used her gauntlet's power cell to send a magnetic surge through it. The particles carried her thoughts like a mirror, bouncing the telepathic waves back. Both twins screamed and fainted. 4 down. The Voln crystal warrior charged, glowing brighter. Mira realized it was building energy for an explosion. She jumped, grabbed a floating shard, and kicked off it. Just as the Voln detonated, the blast tore through the air but missed her by inches. Only the Grun brute was left. He roared, raising his giant hammer, and brought it down hard enough to crack the ground. Mira rolled aside, then noticed something. His armor's joints were powered by external energy cells. If she could overload them. She slid under his swing and jabbed her gauntlet against his knee joint. A pulse of blue light surged through his armor, locking it. He tried to move and couldn't. Frator's voice echoed through the dome. Simulation complete. Human Mira Hale survived. The dome dissolved around her, leaving the training chamber once again. Mira fell to her knees, breathing heavily, her muscles trembling. Frator stepped forward, slow and silent. You did it, he said quietly. 6 opponents, no weapons. You fought like a strategist, not a soldier. Mira smiled weakly. I learned from the best. He shook his head. You learned from yourself. That's what makes your kind dangerous. He handed her a small badge, the silver insignia of the Galactic Combat Academy, proof of recognition. You are now an official graduate, he said. But be warned, the council won't celebrate this. Later that night, Mira sat in her room again, the lights dimmed. She watched the replay of the simulation on her wrist device. Every move, every decision, every reaction. She didn't feel proud and she felt uneasy. The way the council designed that test wasn't to teach her. It was to study her limits. Her console beeped. A new message appeared. Human subject demonstrates rapid adaptability. Recommendation: terminate before dissemination. Her heart skipped a beat. Terminate. She looked up. Someone had already opened her door. Frator stood there, eyes dark. You saw it? He asked quietly. Mira nodded. They're going to kill me. He walked closer. They fear you'll teach others what you know. They think you're proof humanity hasn't changed, that you'll bring another age of chaos. Mira stood up. And what do you think? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, I think the galaxy is about to learn what happens when they push a human too far. He handed her another data crystal. This one locked. Inside is every recording of your tests, every analysis, every secret they tried to hide. Take it. If they come for you, make sure the galaxy sees it. Mira stared at the crystal, feeling its weight. Why are you helping me? Frator's mandibles twitched. Because once, long ago, a human saved my world. The least I can do is return the favor. Before she could respond, the alarm blared, red lights flashing across the hall. The intercom crackled. Security breach detected. Human subject to be detained. Frator turned to her. Go now, Mira hesitated. What about you? He smiled faintly. I'll stall them. But remember, Lieutenant, 1 second can change everything. Mira nodded once, slipped the crystal into her jacket and sprinted down the corridor as the alarm screamed around her. Behind her, Frator turned to face the incoming soldiers. His armor gleamed like fire under the red lights. The galaxy's most feared instructor was about to buy a human sometime. The alarms of the Galactic Combat Academy howled through the metal halls like angry beasts. Red lights flashed. Doors locked. Security drones filled the air, searching for one human, Lieutenant Mira Hale. She ran barefoot down the corridor, her boots lost during the escape. Every breath burned in her chest, but she didn't stop. The data crystal Frator had given her was warm in her pocket, the proof that could expose the Council's secret. Behind her, distant sounds of weapons echoed. The Council's guards were closing in. Mira turned a corner, sliding across the polished floor and ducked into a maintenance shaft. The air was cold and smelled like metal and ozone. She climbed fast, hands shaking but mind calm. Her heart whispered one word over and over: survive. Inside the command deck on the top level of the academy, members of the Galactic Council watched her every move on glowing screens. "She's heading toward the docking bay," said one. "Stop her. Now," another hissed. The lead counselor, a tall crystalline being with a voice like glass scraping against stone, leaned forward. "We gave them a chance to prove themselves peaceful. Instead, she proved the old legends true." A reptilian officer replied nervously, "But Instructor Vrator, he's protecting her." The crystal being's glow pulsed brighter. "Then he will share her fate." The hangar battle Mira burst out of the maintenance shaft into the main hangar. Massive docking ships hovered above, their engines humming. The night sky beyond the hangar doors shimmered with stars, and the twin suns sinking behind Vega 4's horizon. She spotted Dock 7, a small dropship bay for training missions. Perfect for escape. But between her and the ship stood 6 armed guards in silver armor, plasma rifles ready. "Freeze, human!" one shouted. Mira raised her hand slowly. Her mind raced. The walls behind them had magnetic stabilizers, perfect for creating a distraction. She pressed the control on her gauntlet still attached to her wrist. A faint hum filled the air. The stabilizers flickered. The guards looked around in confusion. 1 second later, gravity reversed for a moment. The guards floated helplessly upward, shouting in panic. Mira sprinted forward, sliding across the floor, and grabbed one of the rifles mid-air. She used it to shoot the control panel, locking the gravity field in reverse. The guards crashed into the ceiling, groaning. She didn't look back. Mira jumped into Dock 7, activated the dropship's console, and began the launch sequence. The ship vibrated as the hangar doors started to open. Then, a shadow appeared in the doorway. It was Vrator. His armor was scorched, one arm bleeding blue fluid, but he stood tall. "You made it," he said. Mira smiled slightly. "You don't look so good," he grunted. "I've been better." He stepped inside, sealing the door behind him. Outside, heavy footsteps thundered closer, more guards. "They're coming," she said. Vrator nodded. "Then we leave now." He moved to the co-pilot's seat, his huge claws dancing over the controls. The dropship roared to life. Engines flared. The hangar door was almost shut by the Council's override, but the ship shot forward anyway. The dropship scraped through the narrowing gap and burst into open space. The Academy shrank behind them. Surrounded by defense turrets, escape into the star's lasers fired. The first beam hit the dropship's rear shields, shaking the cockpit. Alarms blared. Mira grabbed the controls, pulling hard to the left. The ship dove toward the planet's upper atmosphere, engines screaming. "Shields at 40%, Vrator shouted. "Just keep them steady," Mira replied. She maneuvered through the storm of light, dodging shot after shot. Her human reflexes, unpredictable and fluid, kept them alive. Vrator glanced at her, his golden eyes wide. "No Shar pilot could do that," Mira smirked. "That's why you needed a human." They broke through the lower orbit, flames licking the hull as they entered Vega 4's thin atmosphere. The plasma fire outside turned the world red. "We can't stay in orbit," she said. "They'll track us." "Then where?" Mira checked the coordinates. "There's an old relay station on the far side of the planet. If I can reach it, I can broadcast the crystal data." Vrator frowned. "The Council will destroy the signal." "Not if the whole galaxy sees it at once," Mira said. He stared at her, then nodded. "Then let's make them watch." The truth broadcast. They reached the relay station an hour later, a lonely structure on a barren ridge of red rock. It was built centuries ago, half buried in sand but still alive with power. Mira and Vrator stepped inside, moving through the dusty corridors. The station's main terminal still glowed faintly. Mira inserted the data crystal. The console lit up, showing all the files, her tests, the Council's secret orders, and the ancient footage of the first ones of Terra. "You're sure about this?" Vrator asked. Mira nodded. "If I die today, at least the truth will live." She began uploading the data. The screen showed hundreds of transmission points, Academy servers, news channels, public nets. The progress bar climbed. 40%, 60%, 80%. Then, an explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They've found us," Vrator shouted. Mira gritted her teeth. "Keep them busy." I need 10 more seconds. The instructor charged out of the control room, his 6 limbs moving like a storm. Outside, dropships landed, releasing waves of armed soldiers. Vrator met them head-on, roaring in fury. Plasma blasts filled the air, reflecting off his armor. He swung his heavy arm and smashed one soldier aside, then another. Inside, Mira watched the upload reach 97%. Ascent, the console beeped. Transmission complete. All across the galaxy, the footage began to spread. Her duel with Vrator, the survival test, the Council's own orders. Billions would see it within minutes. She turned toward the doorway, just as Vrator fell back inside, wounded and bleeding blue. "You did it," he said weakly. Mira knelt beside him. "It's out there now." "Everyone knows," he smiled faintly. "Good, then maybe they'll stop fearing you." Mira shook her head. "No, they'll fear us even more. But maybe that's how change begins." Vrator's eyes dimmed. "Go. The station's about to blow. I'm not leaving you." He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "You have to. Humanity needs a voice. Be that voice." For a moment their eyes met. Soldier and teacher, alien and human. 2 warriors who understood each other. Then the walls shook again. Mira ran toward the landing pad. The ground cracked beneath her feet as she climbed into the dropship. Fire filled the horizon. She took off just as the relay station exploded behind her, a blinding sphere of light that reached the clouds. The galaxy reacts hours later. The galaxy was in chaos. Across thousands of star systems, the leaked footage played on every public screen, showing the human who froze a Shar war hero in 1 second, who survived 6 alien fighters alone, who exposed the Council's lie. Some species cheered. Others panicked. "Humans are back," whispered a traitor in the rim worlds. "And they're smarter than before," said a soldier on a distant moon. The Council tried to block the footage, but it was too late. Once something reached the galactic net, it could never be erased. Mira's name spread like wildfire. The human lieutenant, the 1-second soldier, the Terran ghost. No one knew where she was now. A new beginning, far from the core worlds, in the shadow of an asteroid field. Mira landed the dropship on a small hidden outpost. She stepped outside and looked up at the stars. Her face was tired, her uniform torn, but her eyes were steady. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. She activated her wrist device, connecting to an encrypted channel. A hologram appeared, several human officers back on Earth. Their faces were filled with shock. "Lieutenant Hale?" one of them said. "We just saw the broadcast." "What did you do?" Mira smiled faintly. "I told the truth." Another officer leaned forward. "The entire galaxy is talking about you. They're afraid." Mira's voice was calm. "Good, maybe fear will make them listen. We're done being the fragile species. We're done being ignored." There was silence for a moment. Then one of the officers said quietly, "What happens now?" Mira looked up at the stars again. "Now we prepare. They gave us 3 seconds, but humanity only needs 1. Epilogue, weeks later, rumors spread of a new alliance forming. The Terran Vanguard, a human-led coalition built to protect Earth's interests and ensure no species could ever test them again. Every alien who watched the broadcast remembered the same image. A small human woman standing before a frozen Shar instructor. Calm and fearless, the moment became legend. Some called it arrogance. Others called it evolution, but to every human who saw it, it was something else entirely. Proof that even in a galaxy filled with giants, humanity still had the power to shock the stars.